and welcome back. It's me, Miss Tess. I'm all the way back from London. I took my Uber, of course. And Miss Stephanie, your teacher, has let me come here to read you another story. Now, this is one of Miss Stephanie's favourite from when she was very, very little. This book is very old, but she used to read it all the time with her father. It's called Good Neighbours. Are you being a good neighbour? I bet you are. I bet you're being so good for everyone at home, aren't you? You are? Are you filling their buckets? Well, I knew you were. Are you ready to read? This book is called Good Neighbours. Mouse was a pocket mouse. He lived in a cosy little room underground. I love my house, said Mouse. Home sweet home. He ran up his tunnel and out into the moonlight. The desert was silver and still. Ouch, said a voice behind him. Oh, ouch! Again! A cactus flower shook on a cactus plant. I'm getting it. Ouch! Who's there? Whispered Mouse. He stood near his tunnel, ready to run inside. I've got you, said the voice. Oh, my poor paws! A large flower fell down and rolled over. Oh, said Pack Rat, coming out. He was wringing his paws and crying. Oh no, he looks really torn up. What's the matter? Asked Mouse. I've got prickers, said the Pack Rat. He collected some cactus leaves and dragged them over the sand. What are you doing? Asked Mouse, picking up the flower. I'm fixing up my doorway, said the Pack Rat, flinging his cactus onto a heap very near the mouse's side yard. Call me Ratty. We're neighbors. We are? Asked Mouse. I just moved in, said Ratty. This pile of junk is my front door. Really? Said Mouse, moving nearer. You can't see my door, said Ratty. It's underneath there, somewhere. How do you get in? Asked Mouse. It's not easy, said Ratty. Oh my. Mouse stared at the heap of sticks and cactus. Rocks were sprinkled on top of it. It looked rather like a dump at the end of town. Mouse glanced at his own neat doorway, swept clean that morning. His door knocker shone in the moonlight, and his door was a cactus green. Well, I'm coming home with groceries, said Ratty, picking up a stone. That's when there's trouble. He threw a stone on his pile and smacked his paws. Things have a way of getting caught. You know how it is with prickers. It bags and rip, and then you have it, a mess. Why do you cover up your doorway like that? Asked Mouse, sitting down on his step. Camouflage, said Ratty. If you throw a pile of junk in front of your house, nobody knows you live there. Don't you want anyone to know? Asked Mouse, smelling his flowers. Ratty straightened a stick on the top of his pile and stepped back. Not bad. It's even worse looking than my other house. I had to move because of badgers, said Ratty, poking his nose between the sticks and cactus leaves. He pushed his way down and disappeared beneath. Ouch, said Ratty, looking out again. Like to come inside for a spot of tea? Well, said Mouse, staring at the cactus prickers, I think I'd better go home. It's my supper time, you see, and... Tomorrow, then, said Ratty, waving his paw. See you tomorrow, neighbor. Oh, ouch! And he disappeared again. Mouse stood for a moment, staring at Ratty's heap at the end of his yard. The moonlight silvered the cactus and stones and even the sticks alike. But in the morning, said Mouse to himself, it will just look like a dump. And he shook his head and he went inside, shutting his door behind him. Mouse was up early the next morning, making his breakfast. His tea kettle whistled softly on the stove. Thump, Thump! Thump! "What's that?" said Mouse, dropping his cup. Rocks and dirt showered down from his sofa. He scrambled behind the stove. Mice behind the stove. I know something about that. "Anybody home?" Ratty poked his head through a large hole in Mouse's wall. He pushed himself through and hopped down on the sofa below. "Bullseye," said Ratty. "What luck! I'm making my back room a bit longer, and it's here. It's come into your house." "So it has," said Mouse, picking up his cup. The handle had broken off, which made him feel even crosser. That means mad. "Ratty," he said, "you've made a large hole in my wall." "Isn't it nice?" said Ratty, sitting down at Mouse's breakfast table. "Now we can really be good neighbors. If I need to borrow something, I can pop right in and pop out again. And you can do the same, of course. Whatever's mine is yours, and whatever's yours is mine." "What's mine is not yours," said Mouse crossly. "This is my house, and I don't want a hole in my wall." Uh-oh, Mouse seems pretty upset. "Do you think you'd like it if someone made a hole in your wall?" "But it's above the sofa," said Ratty, pouring himself a cup of tea. "It's so handy. We can jump down and go woof." "We will not go oof on anything," said Mouse, "and certainly not on my sofa." He brushed the rocks and dirt off with his paws and stood up. The tunnel above ran back to a room where Ratty's lamp shone faintly. "This is good tea," said Ratty. "Have you got any biscuits?" "No," said Mouse, jumping down. "I haven't." "Do you have any jam?" "No," shouted Mouse, and he pounded his fist on the table, making the teacup jump. The tea ran down his tablecloth. "My goodness," said Ratty. "Why are you so cross?" And he stood up and stretched and then hopped off the sofa and from there to the hole above. "See you later," he said. "Have a little finishing to do in here and there before lunch." Mouse watched him disappear up the tunnel, and then he hurried across the room to his cupboard and took down a large round picture hanging above. "Grandfather Pocket Mouse will have to cover the hole," said Mouse, "until I can patch it up." He climbed on the sofa and hung the portrait over a root. "There! Who would know there's a hole at all?" he said, stepping backward, and fell off. "Drat that pack rat!" said Mouse, flinging down a stone. "Good neighbors! Huh!" So, Mouse thinks that he can cover up a little bit of Ratty's break into his house. Do you think it'll work? By lunchtime, Mouse had cleared away the stones and dirt from his room, and he warmed his tea and ate some toast. At last, he settled down for his morning nap. Knock, knock, knock. "What?" said Mouse, rubbing his eyes. "Who's there?" "Me again," said Ratty, pushing out from under the picture. "I forgot to borrow some cheese." "Cheese?" said Mouse. "And bread," said Ratty. "For lunch." "Lunch?" said Mouse. Ratty jumped down from the sofa. Dust covered his head and cactus leaf hung from his ear. I said Ratty, "why don't you run down and see your good neighbor Mouse? Perhaps you and he can have a little bite to eat together, being such good neighbors and all." "I've just eaten," said Mouse. "Anything left?" asked Ratty. "Ratty," said Mouse sternly, "I think there are some things you should know. Being good neighbors means you don't bother somebody else." "Bother?" said Ratty. You don't make holes in somebody's wall, and you don't borrow cheese and bread and wake somebody up from their nap." "Whose nap?" asked Ratty. "My nap," said Mouse. "You're not being a very good neighbor, and I'm getting very tired." "Why don't you take a nap?" asked Ratty. "I'm trying to," shouted Mouse. I think I'll go," said Ratty, and he looked as if he might cry. "Goodbye," said Mouse. Ratty climbed through the hole above the sofa, and the picture swung back and forth behind him. "And I hope, said Mouse, pulling up his covers, that. And he slept peacefully for the rest of the day. Seems to me like Mouse wasn't so friendly to his new neighbour. By late afternoon, the sun had gone down and the desert above had grown cooler. Mouse made his way up his tunnel and ran out into the moonlight. He gathered seeds under a bush and found some cactus apples. Delicious, said Mouse, biting between the prickers. What a lovely night! I wonder where everyone is. Watch out, said a tiny moth. The badger is looking for his supper. The badger, said Mouse. Who's he? The badger is very large, said the moth. He likes to eat mice and rats. Pocket mice, said Mouse, dropping his seeds. Especially pocket mice, said the moth, shutting his wings. I think I'll go home, said Mouse. I think I'll go home right away. And he ran quickly over the sand, forgetting his apples and seeds. There's my house, said Mouse. Thank heavens! The bushes rustled. Something was behind them. It's the badger, said Mouse, jumping into the air. It's the badger for sure! He leapt for his door and shut it behind him, and the badger crept out into the moonlight, and he stood before the mouse's green door. Oh, help, help, help! Cried Mouse, running around his room. I forgot to fasten the lock. He hid underneath his sofa. Thump, thump, thump. The badger knocked at his door. Help! Said Mouse. He'll open it. Oh, help, Reddy! Help me, help! Reddy looked from under the picture. Give me your paw, he said. Mouse reached up and Reddy pulled up. Up he went and under the picture, into the hole, and just in time, the badger's paw reached down and felt around the room, and his claw tapped on the sofa and the table and chairs, and he picked up the stove. Ouch! Said the badger, dropping the stove. Something in here is hot. And he licked his paws and he shook his fur, and then he shuffled across the sand. Mouse lay exhausted in Reddy's chair. I've made some tea, said Reddy, and he poured Mouse a cup and sat down in his rocker beside the table. Reddy, said Mouse. Don't try to talk, said Reddy. You had quite a fright. Just drink your tea and rest a bit. Would you like a cracker? Reddy, said Mouse, you saved me. Think nothing of it, said Reddy, taking out his cracker box. Tomorrow we'll fix up your room, and I was thinking, said Reddy, pouring himself some tea, that you're quite right about the hole in your wall. I'll help you patch it up. Oh no, said Mouse, dropping his cracker. I like a hole in my wall. It's so handy for popping in and out of. We can't even go woof on my sofa. We can, said Reddy. But you said, never mind what I said Mouse. I don't care if your front door does look like a dump. It's so the badgers won't know that I live here. It's a very good idea, said Mouse, and he settled back in Reddy's chair and sipped his cup of tea. Just a minute, he said, jumping up again, and he ran down the tunnel to his room and disappeared. In a moment he was back, swinging a bag behind him. I've brought some cheese, said Mouse. Hooray! Cried Reddy, clapping his paws. We'll have a supper party. We'll celebrate being neighbors, said Mouse. Good neighbors, I mean. Hooray for good neighbors, cried Reddy, hopping over his chair. He spread out his crackers and smiled at Mouse. Please pass the cheese. The end. Oh my, boys and girls, that was a very long one, but I hope you hung in there with me. It was so lovely to read with you all, and I'm having such a lovely time visiting your homes. It looks beautiful in there. Hey, are you having a bit of a snack? Can I have a bite? Maybe another time. I'll see you all again soon, and don't forget to be a good neighbor for your family and your siblings and your mummies and daddies and everyone at home. We'll see you at circle time. Miss Stephanie misses you very much. I know she does. She told me so herself. Well, that's all for me, Miss Teff. Back to London with me, I guess. Have a wonderful rest of your day, boys and girls. I love you so much, and we'll see each other again soon. Love you. Bye.